Welcome to the Clemson Insider. I'm Will Vandervoort. It's Gavin Oliver. This is Tiger Talk as we kind of review what we heard this week during players and coaches interviews. An interesting week because Clemson's playing Wofford, and that's nothing against Wofford, but it's a different game for us, and for the media. And you always, Gavin, we're always trying to find stories during this week because it's not so much about the X's and O's and stuff as it is in previous weeks. Yeah. So. How do you approach Wofford week, if I should say?
Yeah, you approach it with the sense that there's not going to be a lot of questions asked about Wofford.
Matter of fact, I don't think
your stories are not going to be Wofford based this week. They're going to be just other player stories or just something Coach Sweeney said about his own team. You kind of go into it knowing there's not going to be a whole lot of attention on Wofford itself, even though that's who they're playing this week. But I thought it was interesting today when we heard Coach Sweeney. Usually, you hear him talk about how good the opponent is and kind of talk them up a lot and, say we got to play our best to win this game and stuff. And he did have some good things to say about Wofford, but one thing I thought was interesting, he was like, well, on paper, they don't really match up with us too well, is what he said. That's how they're playing Wofford this week.
They don't match up with us too well.
Yeah,
and I don't think that was really more like Clemson didn't match up with them. They just don't match up with Wofford. I found it interesting. Eric Boyd was in here for On the Beat, and he told me that the Wofford coach said that he might be pulling starters this week because they're playing for a Southern Conference championship over the next couple of weeks. They got 3 very important games coming up after this. They're trying to make the playoffs over on the FCS side, and he doesn't know. He says it's not good for them to be playing Clemson, when they're trying to make a push for the playoffs. And so it's interesting, like, when's Wofford going to pull their starters? We know Clemson's going to pull theirs at some point, but will Wofford beat Clemson to the punch?
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, they don't want to limp into that game either. They know they're going to take a physical toll. This game is going to take a physical toll on Wofford, so they're going to want to make sure they're healthy going into that. Yeah, I expect we'll see a lot of players playing in this game on both sides of the ball. A lot of backups getting a lot of action in this game. Yeah, for sure.
And so that's it. We're done with Wofford. So now we're going to talk about the, what we heard this week. And I think probably the best thing was a story you wrote that's on the website now with Logan Rudolph and, his story, his alter ego. If you can kind of explain to those people that maybe haven't read your story yet.
Yeah. We got a first-time visitor, first time that this person has ever spoke to the media. Coach Stiff joined us today. Coach Stiff is Logan Rudolph's alter ego. Before he was introduced with the media, Ross Taylor was like, here's what Logan Rudolph. We'll take some questions from him. But first, we have a special visitor, Coach Stiff. So Coach Stiff came up to the podium. That's Rudolph's alter ego, as I said, and he kind of did a little impersonation. I'm not going to even attempt to do the impersonation because I wouldn't do it justice.
We wouldn't do it justice.
You can go on the ClemsonInsider.com to see his impersonation of Coach Stiff. It was really funny. He had the whole media laughing. He also has a video on his Instagram of doing that has 30,000 views on Instagram.
Yes,
This Coach Stiff has gotten a lot of notoriety.
I'm gonna start following Logan Rudolph on Instagram. I will do that.
Yeah. He if I had an Instagram, I would too. But he was hilarious. Yeah. What it is it's just kind of this alter ego he uses to make fun of the recruiting process in a way, because he kind of acted like he was talking to a crew, kind of joking around, making fun. I forget exactly what he said in his Instagram, but something like. I don't even know, but that's his alter ego.
Yeah.
And he just talked about how it came about during the offseason. He kind of developed it. He thought it would be funny. The guys got a kick out of it, and so
because this is all stuff he does recruiting. He does he goes back. He pulls all the stuff he had, all the things he heard and cliches he heard from coaches in recruiting. Yeah. And so I guess the players can relate because they heard some of these same things, and that's what makes it so funny.
Yeah, it was kind of like joking around. I haven't talked to you in 24 hours. Hope you slept well. There's just stupid one-liners like that the guys got a kick out of, and so he kept it going. And actually, Coach Sweeney, after the Boston College game and one other game this season, after the game in the locker room, he actually called Coach Stiff up to address the team, and Coach Sweeney said it had the whole team rolling in the locker room. Rudolph has this ability to just make everybody laugh with these one-liners, and it was just really funny. Coach Sweeney just talked about how hilarious he is and how different that is from the way he is on the field. On the field, he's all about his business, very serious, very focused, a ball of intensity, as Coach Schwinny said.
Yeah.
But off the field, he's got a very dry sense of humor, and he's just a character. We got to see a little bit of that personality today.
We did.
Tuesday.
It was interesting when Coach Stiff left, and then it was Logan Rudolph. That intensity and that focus came back, and he was just more like all about business as he did the rest of the interview with the media. Quiet, shy, reserved, and then every once in a while we'd ask a question for Coach Stiff. And Coach Stiff would answer it, and it was just amazing to watch him go back and forth of the two characters. But he's got a great personality, good kid. He talked about his relationship with his brother too, which obviously with my shirt on right here, as you can see, it was interesting to me. But I asked him, I'm like, what makes one guy go from defensive end, go get the quarterback, and the other guy is, I am the quarterback. And he just says, well, you realize at a young age what you're good at, what you're not. And he says, I realized at a young age I couldn't throw the ball or run. So I decided to play defense. So I thought it was pretty good. Logan Rudolph, basically, though, in my opinion, is pretty fast, though. I mean, and he uses his speed to kind of get around people, especially at that defensive end position. Can play an outside linebacker if he needed to, because he's, 245, I think? So he can play outside backer. I think he'd be good outside backer, to be honest with you. But showed a little bit of that speed in the game, picking up the fumble. But his relationship with his brother, though, he says, they text all the time. His brother, in case you didn't know, is Mason Rudolph, was the All-American quarterback at Oklahoma State. Pittsburgh Steelers picked him up in the second round a few years ago in the NFL draft, and he's actually starting now with Roethlisberger injured, and got his first start earlier this weekend. Got another win earlier this week against Miami. Logan talked about that experience, and talk about what it's like seeing his brother playing NFL. It's a pretty good relationship. They seem like they're pretty close guys, and so we'll see how that goes for him, and hopefully he'll get to play with his brother either in Pittsburgh or maybe get to play against his brother, and that'll be kind of crazy to go cool. Sack your brother, right?
That would be neat. And
I would love to be Logan in that situation because I like defense, as you guys know. I would love to be the guy that goes to get sacked my brother, my older brother. I would love that.
That would be cool. If he keeps playing like he is this season, maybe, he's only a redshirt sophomore, so he still has some time to show what he can do at this level, at the college level, but he's a physical, nasty kind of guy. He kind of reminds me of the defensive version of Matt Bockhorst in a way. I don't know.
Yeah,
that kind of mean streak, kind of the nasty attitude, physical. So he's a guy that's been help step up for Clemson this year, replace that four stars on the D-line. He's been one of the key cogs this year.
Yeah, and actually to talk about Bockhorst, we got to speak with him yesterday, and he's having, for a reserve guy, he's had a really good year. He was All ACC Player of the Week a few weeks ago on the offensive line. Came in as a reserve and still got Player of the Week honors, and it says something. Dabo talked about how he is just real nasty up front, and how behind the scenes he's this loose, jovial character, but then when he gets out there on the field, it's like, I won't say all business because it is, but it's like an intensity, like he jacks it up a notch, and he's ready to go out there and hit somebody. He doesn't play around at all, and so he was a fun interview yesterday because he's got a great personality. He talked about the swimsuit calendar, right? And that's what was funny yesterday. He talked about how the offensive lineman, who wouldn't want to see a group of offensive linemen in a swimsuit calendar? And that is one swimsuit calendar I do not want to see for a lot of reasons. Can you imagine Tremaine Akram and those guys, John Simpson and
Jackson Carmen,
Sean Pollard, Jackson Carmen?
Nothing against those guys, but I do not want to see that.
No, I do not either. But real good stuff. You can find that on. Go ahead.
And just to add to that point a little bit, Coach Elliott actually talked a little bit about Bockhorst too yesterday. Had a really good things to say about him. He said Elliott said that Bockhorst is actually what you'd want your son to be like. He said he's the kind of guy that can go in Paul Journey, talk with a bunch of executives and command the room. Then he can go into the locker room, make everybody laugh, kind of similar to Logan Rudolph. And then he can go out on the field and just nasty, want to hit you, want to hurt you. Sometimes they have to tell him in practice, hey, make sure you keep it between the whistles, you know. And he's one of those guys, not sick him, So,
exactly.
So I thought that was really neat that Elliott that's pretty high praise coming from a guy who has his own kids, and
Yeah.
he's a father, and he said that's what you want your son to be like.
Yeah, that's what I exactly said. I would want my son to grow up to be Matt
Yeah,
Bockhorst.
yeah.
I mean,
That
that's
says a
the
lot.
ultimate compliment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's a good kid, as is Logan, and let's be honest, as is most of the guys on the team. I mean, and speaking of good kids, let's talk about Isaiah Simmons. Not only a good kid, or I should say man, beast, if you will, but man, what a heck of a defensive player, right, Gavin? I mean, this guy, he can line up at free safety, and play that. He can line up right above the center, and then at the whistle's blown, he's all the way back here. He can line up at outside linebacker where he's supposed to play, which he did last week. Against Boston College, he played more of that Sandbacker position. He can line up, and Elliott said he could even put his hand down and play defensive end if he wanted to. Tanner Muse talked about how he's the best defensive player in the country, and it's not even close. I asked Tony Elliott, hey, look, do you think people around the country just don't know who this guy is? Are you surprised? And he says, well, if they don't know who he is yet, they're going to know who he is come the end of the season. I mean, Isaiah Simmons is just unbelievable.
He's unbelievable, yeah. I think once he's in, if Clemson makes the college football playoff and he's getting to play on that national stage, he will make his presence felt and everybody will know who he is. But yeah, like you said, he's all over the field. He's amazing. I'd take it even a step further. He did play offense in high school. He could play receiver if you wanted to. You could hand him the ball, and he's such a big guy, fast. He could run the ball well, too. I mean, I think he could play virtually any position on the field just because he's such a freak of nature, athleticism, length, size. He's amazing. He does something each week that makes you just go, wow.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so Clemson uses him and all these things, and then yesterday, Brent Venables was, people are asking about the defense, and defense, if you don't know, is having the third in the country, or fourth in the country in total offense, fifth in the country in scoring defense. They're number one in total defense efficiency in the country. You can go down. There's like 13 categories where they're either number 1 through 5. I mean, it's amazing what they're doing right now. But anyway, we talked to Brent, about the defense, and he says, well, Isaiah does his things and all this, but he said, then we got this guy, Kayvon Wallace, who can line up and play safety. He can play both safety positions. He can play corner. He can play the nickelback position. If you need him to, he can play an outside backer position if you want to. He's good enough to do it. He's another guy that can play 3 or 4 positions and not miss a beat.
Yeah, we talked. Tanner Measle kind of was touching on all the talent they have on the defensive side of the ball. He's saying, Kayvon, he mentioned Kayvon he thinks he's one of the best safeties in the country. And I think that's fair to say. He was just talking about that. And speaking of Tanner Muse, kind of on a different subject, one thing I want to bring up that he said interesting, I thought yesterday, was he didn't like that the defense is not getting a whole lot of attention.
That's right.
From some in the media. He cited ESPN specifically saying when you turn on the highlights, you see all the offensive stuff, but you don't see all nobody wants to see a third down stop. He said nobody wants to see the fact that they held Boston College under 200 yards or all the third down stops that they got. And so I thought that was pretty funny or interesting that he kind of called out some of the media yesterday.
Yeah, and if you turn on ESPN, they'll show Trevor Lawrence's interceptions, but they won't show Clemson getting interceptions. And Clemson, by the way, is 5th in the country in interceptions this season. And so and I can see why he feels that way, because that's what they see. They turn on that. Clemson was the first team this season to hold Boston College under 400 yards, and they held them to 177. They just didn't hold them to under 400. Held them 200 and. 307 yards under their average, I think, something like that. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was just kind of refreshing for Muse, because usually you hear players come up to the podium, oh, it's all about us, we're not worried about the outside, what people think or whatever. But Muse came up there and said, hey, we're playing really well right now, basically, is what he said. And that people aren't taking notice, and it kind of bothered him a little bit. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Because I'm sure all he hears about is Ohio State and how great Ohio State's defense is. Those players here, they pay attention, as they've told us before. But anyway, that's all we got for this week's Tiger Talk, is kind of give you what we could.
All-encompassing.
All-encompassing
kind
what we
of
could.
in a nutshell of what we heard.
Wofford game. The Tigers out of conference this week, and they'll be playing Wofford at 4 o'clock on Saturday, Military Appreciation Day in Death Valley. Get there, wear your purple shirts, to show your support for the military. Clemson will greatly appreciate it. As for us, stay tuned to the TCI. We'll have more stuff all throughout the week. For Gavin Oliver, I'm Will Vandervoort. We'll see you later.